let's get started with this. The point here is, together we have an hour now to talk a bit about your front end and how we can bring a nice backend to it, right? You know how to build a front end, you have your users, you have your use case. Maybe you came with your front end from Lovable or any other of those platforms, or maybe you wrote it yourself. This is your first JavaScript app. So this is what we want to do today, is make sure that you can create a backend for this. And we'll walk you through all of this, and we'll see how NPL here is quite nice for this. Myself, I've created this wonderful document review process. This is a small application where a user can log in, Alice and Bob, with a password, and then those documents will be stored somewhere, and you can perform some actions. This is a very simple use case. I can imagine you have your use case and you want to get this backend going. So we have those documents, we're getting those, and we can edit those documents. Maybe let's create a new one. We have this wonderful document, and I'm here logged in as Alice, so I will tag Bob for him to be able to review that document, right? And so this is a very simple document, a bit of text, and you have here, and we have this document created together. I can edit it to really reflect what we're doing to this document. For now, I cannot do anything crazy, but this is a simple use case, simple web app. Again, this is the web app part is the part that you're coming with, huh? So we have our document here. Some interaction with another user, and then here we see that as Alice, we've sent this document for review. So I'm expecting on the other side to have one or two document that Bob can see, huh? Yeah, so here we're on Bob's account, and we have the same document that we have created with Alice, yet Bob has the possibility to approve all of this. Now, lots of it is done in the front end. This is what you have, right? But let me show you a bit how we do things and how we interact with the server. For example, we have those documents. We have here our endpoint, and we're fetching those documents. As you can see, we're already touching upon the NPL topic that I promised to you also in the title. This is something that we have there. Cool, so you see this. We just make a GET request to get all of them, and we have our list of documents. We have here, two documents. This matches what we have there. The first one is created. This matches what we have there. And the second one is in review, which also matches what we have there. So you see that this backend already allows us to do quite a bit. And then the front end is here to present this, to make the use case work. And then we're going to be able to discover how to patch those two together. Yeah. We'll also see how we've managed the difference between Alice and Bob. We know that for front-end people, the user management is also quite a tricky thingy, and make sure that this works pretty well is a challenge. Yeah. So let's go for this. Cool. Let me close this small document here. I'm highlighting this URL here, public NPL init noumena.cloud. This is a URL that you can also navigate. This is a public access, and you've seen the two users. It's Alice and Bob. The password for both users is password 12345678. So you can also play with that account, and you can also play with that app. It's really just a demo app, so have fun and go for this. If you need more users or want to involve more people, just let me know. We can also create those for you. This is a very simple example. The web app here is in React, of course, but this doesn't even make a big difference for interaction between the front end and the back end. So let's go to our story here today. How can you then now create this connection between your front end and your back end? You have your front end, you want to have your back end. So this is what we have here. For this, you will need the NPL CLI. Let me show you how you can get to this. Just grab your browser and type in NPL CLI. You'll get to the NPL CLI and how you can install this. Yeah, I'm on Mac OS, so I can just use this command and install this. This is from the terminal. For those that don't know Brew is a simple way to install libraries. Go type in your browser, in your search engine, install Brew, and they will show you how to do this, and this is quite convenient. But we also support other libraries. For Windows, we highly recommend using the Windows subsystem for Linux. Once you have this, you can simply, in your terminal, use the npl init command and fetch one of those repositories, either the standard one or one that is here a bit specific, where we fetch the front-end part of it. I'll be posting this in the chat, so you can also do that yourself. If I can post a URL. Yeah, okay, just the URL doesn't want to come through. Too bad. Maybe it's because it's containing a URL. No, for whatever reason. There you have the URL as well. You can copy this and then type a project name afterwards, whatever you want to have, and then you're gonna get your project. Let me actually just navigate to the right folder, just to be at the right place. I don't want to polluting my whole home directory. So let's create this project together, and that will get me this. I've split the URL here for some reason. I don't know why. Then we're gonna get this. Okay, the NPL init has allowed us to create a nice repository from this front-end branch on our repository that contains this repository here. Let's open this repository with our favorite editor. I'm using VS Code. It's quite convenient and effective for what I want to do. Then I can open this together example, and that will show up. We have a few things here in this repository, and we can look at how our application stack is formed around this repository. It's really not complicated. There's just a few things. Most of it is configuration that is generated by your browser, and this is here done for me from for this. I see, chat, that you're asking me for a bigger text. Of course, let's make this happen. We'll get this zoomed in. No, not that. I promise you I'm using those regularly, huh? I'm developing. We'll get the text going as a tiny bit bigger as soon as we have a file. So for you, what is super interesting is this folder package. Is this the front-end folder that has everything a front-end usually has, and we can play with this. We have some source. We already have some component in there that illustrate the document example I was showing you before. This is not crazy complicated, so if you want to replace this with something else, please feel free to do that. This is, of course, something that you can do. From this also, we have in there the API part, which is the backend. The whole backend is in there. It's really not a complicated folder. Just have a look. And lots of it relies on the fact that we use a special piece of Architecture here, the Noumena digital engine for running the backend. This is quite a simple trick to get a full backend running very easily. For those that don't know Docker, Docker is a tool that allows you to run services in a very reproducible manner wherever you are, whichever environment you are. So this is very convenient for development and sharing tools. We're using this to run a few of our services then. This is what we have. Yeah. So this is the main part of the architecture. We have this engine. We see that we also have a database here that is going to be storing our data. You don't need to care too much about that. This is pre-configured for you. If at a later point in time you want to change this configuration, just drop us a message on the Noumena community. This is going to be amazing. We're going to help you out. And the Nginx is a tool that will be routing your request and making sure that your frontend can communicate with your backend. This is really a simple configuration, and feel free to read about this on the cloud, on the internet. There's a lot of things around this topic. So this is a big picture. We have our front end that talks to our backend. This one we've seen, this is React, and the backend is in NPL. This is what we've seen. And then below this we have a database, because you still need to store data, which is in Postgres. Yeah, and this matches what we have in here. We have the Postgres, we have the engine, and well, you have the proxy here that comes in between. And no, not there, over there. And then you have the front end that is not run in a container here, but is more in a separate service that we have. Yep. So let's run all of this and let's see how this is connected and how you can use this for implementing your own backend. The first thing is we have this document, and if you have a business logic in your front end, you want to replicate this in your backend, or have the dependent, the similarity, the other side of the front end in the backend where you store your data. Here I have a document object that I'm using in the front end to actually trigger the actions, and this is what we want to create here. If you have a different use case, implement a different protocol there and create another workflow through this. For example, if I want to have, let's say, I want to rent a bike, I can create a service that does this, that can rent a bike. So I can create here a new folder for my new service and make sure that this is what we have. Creating a .npl file in here. Those NPL files are for NPL content. And we are now writing our service here that will populate our whole backend. All the NPL files start with a package that matches the name of the folder it is included in, or the folder structure for that matter. And then we're defining our new protocol. See here my, I think it's Copilot that is suggesting me a whole element of a whole suggestion for the whole text. Let's see what is there and we'll decide if this is a valid suggestion. So here it suggests a protocol, so an interaction between a bike renter and a bike owner. That seems like fine. And we have this bike rental. This specifies a specific bike ID. This is a text. Maybe we would want to change this by having another relation to an actual bike, but for the beginning that could be good. The rental start and the rental end. This is all things that we could have, I'm not entirely sure that this matches the NPL syntax, so let's see what is going on. There is something that we have, which are cursor rules. Cursor rules allow you to write NPL code a bit more easily with your favorite LLMs in cursor, obviously. Now, given that I'm in VS Code, I should have some rules also for VS Code. Not sure where they should be, so let's see why that hasn't worked properly, huh? If anyone can help me out on this one, that would be cool. Otherwise, we'll figure it out. Yeah, so we have this protocol that we have here. Let's see what it says. Indeed, that datetime is not a proper syntax. This is much better that way. And same here, we have the optional that we need to write, but let's get through this step by step. Okay, so here we're defining our object. That means we can create this from the API, from our application. Whenever we want to create a rental for a specific bike, we can do that. We can specify the start and the end. Both of them are optional, so that means that we could also specify a bike rental without a start and without an end. If we don't know, for example, if we want to leave this open, if either one or the other is not available. Depends on the use case, right? You could also specify that differently. And then we'll go through the process of renting the bike. This bike rental is available. We haven't concluded it yet. When there's a decision from the renter to actually go through the rental, you rent it, and then you have this returned state, which is when the bike has been returned. And we're tracking this progress through this rental with this state machine with this with those different states. The first one is initial, the last one is final, and then interaction in between is possible. Those can be then used within your application. For example, the bike can be rented only when the bike is available. You cannot rent an already rented bike, and you cannot rent an already returned bike. You would need another bike rental. Or if you want to have the same bike rental that repeats, then you can change your state machine and not make this final, but then the start and the end would be managed a bit differently. I imagine we would create a bike protocol to manage all the bike rentals that we have for a specific bike. And then finally we return the bike. This is how it goes here. We create this bike rental, and we are specifying when this has been returned. All of this will happen at the same time. There is no possibility that we're specifying the rental end and that the process is not updated to become returned. This is going to be transactional. So this is something that you would be implementing based on your unique application, and this is quite simple code. This is a code that can have similarities with other programming languages. I'm sure that you have a bit of familiarity with this as well. Then a few syntax elements are also unique, so this is something you have to pay attention to, but nowadays most LLMs know how to deal with those. Thinking about those state cards, making sure that some actions are only available at some stages of the process. This is something that sometimes is a bit more complicated for LLMs to figure out, or as mentioned here, if we have a value that is not necessarily set, where in JavaScript and other languages we would just put a question mark at the end. Here we have to wrap this in an optional type. I'm getting here deep in that NPL. I think this is useful for you to figure out how to implement your own process in that language and make sure that your backend follows your requirements. But don't worry, even changing this is then super easy. So once you have this element here, one thing that you can do is start your backend there. Creating here a new terminal window that we're in the local repository here in the Together repository, and we're going to be using this Docker tool to create that backend that the frontend is going to be connected with. So for this, there is a special command, and for this, of course, everything is explained in the README, so you can follow that there as well. We're going to be running the application. So Docker compose up, and I'm going to not care about the log, detaching this, but waiting until everything's ready. This is going to spin up some containers that are then going to be visible in Docker. Let's just go check out the Docker window at the moment, see if I don't have anything. So Docker is clean. I can start my services and make sure that this is available. Once everything is healthy, just this can take a few seconds until everything's ready. Until everything is set up, we have this. When everything's healthy, everything has started. We can go check that in the Docker desktop as well. Let's see if I can also make that one a bit bigger. There we go. Every app has a different shortcut. I don't know why. So we have the database, the engine, and our proxy, as we saw before in our architecture diagram. Nothing to go check there as long as they're healthy. Otherwise, there might be something up with the configuration. So I have this element here, and now I have my node running. And here, if you have the front end, maybe you have also explored Node. Which would be a rough comparison with here our engine, and where Node needs to be started with the whole code together. Here with our engine, we can start it at the beginning and then push code and remove code however we want while we're exploring all of this. This is what I'm going to be doing now. I'm going to be deploying this element to this code to my engine. Quite simple. I'm using the NPL CLI again and the deploy keyword, and we see that the sources have been deployed successfully. Now that we have written this, I was telling you before that this is creating a whole backend. Why is this creating a whole backend? We have barely defined anything. This is something that is creating some endpoints for you to trigger actions and create objects. Let's go see them in action and where we can visualize them. Looking at our engine, we see that we have here a few elements that are available, namely the 12,000 port by default configuration. You can also change this, but this is the default configuration, and this has just opened a window in my different browser that is over there. This background is what we have just implemented. We see that there is also the document use case that we have seen before at the beginning of the session. Those endpoints have been created too. Let's come back to our bike rental. Okay, here we have an endpoint to get a list of bike rentals. All the bike rentals that exist, we can get them through that endpoint. We could try this out. And we see that straight away, we need actually to be authorized. We need to have an authorization. And this is why at the beginning of the demo, we logged in with Alice and Bob. So let's go through this. If I know how to type. And you might be wondering where I'm getting those users from. This is a good question. I'll show you that. There is a way to configure those users, and if they're not configured within your repository, we have a predefined database of users for when you start your engine in the dev mode. This dev mode allows you, among others, to start with a very simple setup, not for production, right, but a very simple setup that allows you to get users. So let's go check out quickly the documentation to see what users we have. And this is the list of users that we have there. We saw Alice and Bob from before, and this is this. Okay, password 123, so I should be able to log in there on the web app that I was looking at before. I'm selecting here the OIDC login. This is a standard authorization protocol that we have implemented with this dev mode. It's not complicated. You don't have to worry more about this. This is more for interacting with your application while you're still creating this. You can also look at this page, and it explains you how to create a list of other users that you would want to use if you have specific ones that you want to test with. Now this is authorized. I can try again my request, and that will return a different element. Okay, 200, this is a success, you know this, but we don't have any elements. So how can I create an element? There's a specific trick for being able to create elements. If I go back to my code, to my bike rental, here is we have this @API notation that we can add on the protocol at the top so that we can create this. So I will quickly deploy this again while clearing what was already there, and we'll see that we have our updated endpoints here. We see now that we have this post bike rental that we can use. This is not more complicated than this to create an endpoint. You don't need to know the whole Express library or find routing and create controllers and models and services and tons of layers that are sometimes useful, but quite often very complicated and intricate to get started with and organize properly. This is quite simple. Here you just add this @API endpoint and you're getting the whole result out of it. Right. So now you have this endpoint. We can create this instance here with the login from before. Let's see if I need to authorize myself again. Same password as before, password 123, and that should be sufficient to gain access. There we go. Okay, so now then we can create our bike ID, and I'm creating a bike ID there. We start the rental maybe not in 2006, maybe in 2025. What date are we today? December 4th. So let's start it tomorrow, whenever we want, and finish somewhere in 2026. Okay, so quickly here defining that we want this to be between Alice and Bob. You might be wondering what this is about, what those claims are. And here we have the very core construct of how we have been able to send a document from Alice to Bob at the beginning. We're defining who is acting in which capacity within that small process that we have. If we come back to our, not that window, to our bike rental process, we have a bike renter and a bike owner. But without specifying this in the system doesn't know if I rent a bike or I own a bike. Yet I should be able to rent a bike and own a bike. This is something that can happen in the daily life. So this is something that we're representing like this. For this specific bike rental that I'm creating here, Alice is going to be the bike renter and Bob is going to be the bike owner. So let's create this interaction. We see that this has succeeded, and probably we can find this bike rental now in the list of bike rentals that we had before. And we see that here, we see that we have created our bike rental with the bike owner claims and that the bike is available, the bike ID 1 that we had created just before from 2025 to 2026. So this is the extent that you need to go to implement your backend. Everything is done now. But the whole point is for you to be able to connect this to your front end, right? So let's do this. Let's do this. Good. Still not the right window. This is gonna become a running gag. Here is our element. Okay, so we have written this one file that defines our whole backend. We don't need to define database tables. This is taken care of for you. You don't need to define any data schema mapping or ORM. This is done for you as well. And you don't need to define API further. Just adding those API endpoints on the different actions is sufficient. Yeah. So now from this, we've seen the Swagger file before. And we can also generate this OpenAPI folder from the code directly. And for this, I'm referring back again to our beloved NPL CLI. And for this, I want the OpenAPI. OpenAPI is a standard that defines API endpoints. You might be familiar with this in the front end because this allows you to generate clients or SDK-like, library-like pieces of code that allows you to abstract the API into your native preferred language. So we have created this OpenAPI successfully. That leads to a nice file that should be somewhere. Let's see. Where are we standing on this? Here I'm in together, here I'm in together. We're generating the document for the back rental and the document, so that should be appearing here any second. Should be there. There we go. We have this OpenAPI folder within the front end. It has been put there out of the configuration that we have. And we see that for this back rental, for example, we can get the bike rentals that we had before, and we can create one. This is exactly what we've been doing in the Swagger, right? So now that we have those endpoints, we can create our client, as you know that. And for this, I have a library. So let's go in the front end. I'm installing the libraries, going a bit faster on this one because you know what this is. And here then we have in that repository already a target, a script that allows you to generate those documents. If we generate those clients, that is also something that can be easily done with the run. Okay, let's remove one of the OpenAPI just to be sure that this is not causing any problem. There we go. So we've generated this for one specific argument. I could also modify this to run for one specific file or duplicate this command for every file. Yeah, I don't need to have that many elements. Yet one thing I still want to change here is that we're not talking about document, we talk about bike rental. So let's go through this again. Quickly removing that document that we want named differently and generating that bike rental element. This is something then that will put some client in the source client bike rental place, source client bike rental place. This is where we are, where we can add this. Yeah, and so here you have the library that you need to run your bike shop. From here, the game then is to create or adjust this to your front end and generate this. Let's quickly also do the same generation for the document example that we had before. This time I want the document, and I want to put that in a document place. Generating the second element. In our clients now we have the bike rental and the document. And given that I have plenty of components about the document, this will allow me to compile my front end. Yes, I think that will work. And from here, you're the front-end experts. You know how to do this the best. This is the front-end that you could implement for your bike rental. and go in your architecture for your front end and implement this. I'll be showing you a bit for the document how this has been done, and so you can then do the same for your own application there. Right, so now we have this front end that we want to run. So we can run this. And see that this appears also on our screen. We have the same user as we were logging through with Swagger. And we're getting there to the same place. Here we have the document use case. We can of course add another screen for the bike rental element. I'm quickly going to start a small chat session with my agent to ask it to implement the bike rental process. And in the meantime, while it's going to be doing this, I will be walking you through the different elements of this front end so that you can also reproduce this. Let's leave that one work a bit in parallel, and we'll see what our application is about. So here we have in our front end element, we have an entry point, which is the index HTML, of course, that leads us to our app. Our app includes a few things already. This user provider, which is an interface to get you logged in. Here we have a few possibilities for you. Either you can use OIDC, which is this protocol that we were looking at before, or you can also look at Keycloak.js. Keycloak is an open source identity and access management system that allows you to manage users for a proactive system. And for now, we're using this OIDC provider because we're still in that dev mode I was mentioning before that allows you to start very easily. And then we have all of this user management system here with the auth providers, but that's not really the core element here. Our shell will allow us to route different elements, and for example, also this homepage that we have there that will direct it there. Let's see if we can hide a few of those things for the moment and look at the code a bit more. The homepage was where we have the document here. This is the homepage, and now I want another tab there for this bike rental process. And this homepage here has a few components that will then, for example, for the create document dialog, call the API that we have in the backend. And this is the interesting part. This create document function here is not something that has been written. It's something that has been generated, and we're importing that from the client's document generated element from our OpenAPI source. This function then in itself is going to create an HTTP request and go to the backend, but this function here allows you to not worry about the HTTP nature of it and treat it as another function that would call your your system, your backend without you having to hassle with the HTTP aspect of it. Two things we need to specify is this client, which is indicating itself where the server is, because that is not going to get it a guess on its own, and then also specify the authorization. This API is specified somewhere in our services, and we're adding, we're defining, for example, the root URL for this system. We're using the base URL, for example. We're reading this from the runtime configuration, and this login mode OIDC or keycloak is also processed here. We see that our LLM is already adding this bike rental service. I'm sure that you would be implementing the frontend way better than the frontend is doing. I'm focusing here on helping you connect your frontend that you have written, whatever the mean is, with the backend that you would be writing in NPL. You can also generate that one if you feel comfortable with that. So we were at our document creation dialog and looking at this function here that is used to create your backend. And then this authorization is then used it comes from the same place and manages the authorization across the app. If you use our frame, you have this already managed. Otherwise, implement something similar or find a way to manage the headers on your own way. But this is a very simple way to manage this API endpoint, because you don't need to worry about making sure that you know which body you need to have. Everything's typed. You can trust this library, and this will always match your backend. For example, here, if I were to modify this variable, it would tell me like, no, I want the content, because the content is what I'm expecting on the other side in the API. And you could do those cycles a few times, right? We've seen the command with the clear before, modifying the NPL and deploying the NPL with the clear parameter, and then generating the client, updating your front end, and that allows you for very quick iteration. Let's see where we are with this junior developer there, or not even junior, even less. Seems like the errors are mostly gone. Quite a few additions. Let's go check out our front end already and see what there is. Okay, so we have a bike rental here. We have a bike rental. It seems like it has already. Well, this is the bike rental we tried to do before. Yep. So it has a small problem with the date. Let's see if we can find a way to fix this. The bike is available. I can as Alice. What did we say before? The bike owner is Bob, and I'm renting it. So Alice should be able to rent it, right? So if I click on this button, it should work. It is rented, it has worked, and we can check also that on the API level, if we refresh that one, that we have this bike rental element that is fetched, and we have this item that represents the object that we have. So this has probably in the code also created the same kind of rental dialog with the same function, exactly, create bike rental. We have this here. We are passing all the different objects, and we're creating the elements here. Here we have this user email that is the current user, so the renter is always the one that creates the rental according to this dialog, according to this process that has been generated. You could of course change this if you want to add another input field. And then the owner is given in the form. Let's check this out. Create the bike. Yes, we just have one field here, which is the owner, which is what we see on the other side. And so all of this is then managed for you. You don't need to worry about how to call the backend. And all of this is stored. You can reuse. You don't have to worry about data schema, data structure, and you have all of this available. Cool chat. What do you think about this? Ready to implement that for your own application? For me, that seems quite easy to do, and I could implement anything. Yeah? Would you be able to do that again? yeah, let's get this going. Let's this ready for you to use and see how this goes. If you have any question, I'm here. I'll be expanding on this bike rental just a tiny bit to give you a bit of time to ask any questions if you have, and in 2-3 minutes I'll be closing the stream, and unless you have an application that you would want to show, that you would want us to adjust or include any NPL backend, and then we can do that together. Let's see what we can do. Or if you have any questions as well, this is what we can do. Yeah? Okay. Let's get into this. Adding a bit of functionality here for the element for this bike rental. Going through one of those iteration loops that we have. Okay, bike rental. What do I have there? Let's create this bike object so we can rent a few bikes. Let's get this going. Let me know, chat, what you want to hear, what you want to see. I'm here for you to share that a bit more. See what this is. I'm not usually always using the LLMs, but given that I prefer chatting with you than writing the code, I'll be using this and see if this will lead to high quality code, or if we can decide that, as always, the work of developers is of better quality than what a probabilistic model can do. We'll get through this together. It seems not to find the bike rental. I don't know what's going on. Seems like cannot find exactly the right syntax here for this. Let's helping it a bit with the comma that is separating this. No, the API annotation is allowed there. There is no problem with this. Let's see if this is just that. No, we don't need to put an ID of a bike. If we just mention the bike, this will reference it. But that is already good, right? So we have this bike protocol. What it had to do. We have this complex lifecycle that it invented, available, in use, maintenance, and retired. Mostly it's going to be available and in use when there is a rental. Let's see how those states are used. If you can rent it for in the future, or if you need to rent it always there on the spot. Oh, invoke bike usage. It really doesn't know how to use that one. Interesting. Have you seen that, chat? This is some various keywords, I guess, because of the become. Here it decided that it wanted to use the invoke for calling an action, but no, we're referencing the different object that we want. We're referencing the permission that we have, and then we're repeating the specific actor in the process that is triggering that action. Yeah, we might even be able to get it to generate a test. quite often it, well, one, understands all my typos, and two, has challenges finding the assertion methods in there, but that should be something you can catch up with. Yeah. So you see now that we have this, we can generate the OpenAPI again. That will lead to generating all of this again. We haven't touched the document, so no need to modify it, but our bike rental should be updated. Tests are not relevant for the OpenAPI generation, so we can do both in parallel and now go in the front end to get the package updated. I'm just going to be here updating this and making changes there as well. For some reason, I did not keep the same dash versus underscore syntax, which confuses LLMs, but this is this. So the front end is now a bit wrong because we have changed our API, which is normal. Let's quickly look at the NPL before we go to the front end to see what there is. We don't need to specify ID. And what is this none of? This is how we do things. Can you learn? Yes, that's cool. Daytime off is nice. 6 expected. What do we have for rent? Expected 6. Oh, that's surprising. Chat, if you know what this is, let me know. This seems really odd. Oh yes, it's the daytime off that is not appreciating the element there. We're getting there, huh? So this is the 3rd of December 2025 at 10, so hours, minute, and no seconds. Same problem here, but you fixed it above. Do you think we can get this to be fixed again? No. There we go. There we go. A bit slow today, huh? Copilot is not doing its best. Some days I have the feeling I'm becoming a tab monkey. But this is what it says. Yeah, okay, so we have this. We can also run tests in our command, yes, I'm in the front-end folder. Of course, there is no test. Okay, doesn't really like this yet. Saving the file might help. Okay, so now it compiles, but there's errors. Start usage on a bike. Let's see what we have there. Start usage on bike. I'm quite sure that this is linked to the fact that we have this. The start usage is called somewhere else here in the rent. So it's one of those rents that is problematic, but this is what we have everywhere. This is what we're testing all over the place. So we need to debug all of this. There's actually 3 places that we're doing a renting. Create a bike rental, rent it. So here we have a problem with party creation. Let's go back to the bike. Let's say that the bike owner can rent it and return it. And see if that makes a difference. Given that the bike itself doesn't know who the renter is, there's only the owner role there. It has to be the owner that has to do this, which means I probably should ask the owner at some point if he's like okay with the, if the owner is okay with the rental or not. But that, you know, this is a more advanced setup. Then we have this. Okay, let's go back to our front end, see what we have there. We have updated our API, so we have this that is now all over the place. Let's see if we can figure it out. And that is going to be doing that. And this is the last thing I'm going to be doing today, making sure that this is working. And if this is working, then we're gonna leave it at this. Typically, this is something that the AI should be finding out and fixing and correcting before this. Otherwise, it will not compile. We have, for example, there the likelihood of having some errors somewhere. If I get there. Chat, you have not been very active today. See, it's able to fix all of this. We're passing in the UI the reference as the ID, and it in the backend it will translate this as a bike, finding the whole object, so we can use this as a reference. Neat, isn't it? Let's see what else needs to be updated. Let's see if we have still lots of errors. We still have a few. And then I hope it's also going to be showing a list of bikes and how to create bikes. Can we create bikes actually? Chad, do you remember? Bike rental, we can create bikes, okay. Good. That should help. Just helping here a tiny bit, just so that we're speeding up. With those rules, those become pretty well actually. If you're a front-end developer here reading this and listening this, I'm quite sure that you would not be pleased with all of that boilerplate. Creating some small components and small elements would always be nicer, and this is also why the job that you're providing is so valuable, because you're making good code and valuable code and readable code and working code, which the AI is not there yet. Have you seen that blurb? This doesn't even make any sense. Okay, so slowly it's getting there. Still a problem with the bike ID, doesn't figure out that bike as an ID. There we go. So what does it look like on the other side? So we have bikes and we have rentals. Okay, good. It has grown in complexity. Have we deployed again? No, we haven't, huh? Still the wrong place. Let's deploy this small element again, and then we'll test the front end. We have this new frontend uploaded. We can go check the OpenAPI specification if we want to see if we have now the bike and the bike rentals, exactly bike and bike rentals. We have all of this. This is all good. So this has more chances to work now. A bike model. Mountain Bike Pro, as the helper was suggesting. And in excellent condition, of course. And we have our bike, it has been created. So let's see if we can use this for creating a bike rental. Oh, I don't know the bike ID. Should I copy this? Oh, well, I hope that that's sufficient. I'm Alice, so let's log in as Alice. Okay, that has created a rental. Rent bike, starting whenever it is rented. Can Bob also see the bike rental on the bike? So Bob doesn't see the bike and Bob doesn't see the rental. Interesting aspect. I wonder what happened there. We'll never know. Or should we know? Do you want to find out, Chad? Let's go check. What is going on with our rentals? Why is Bob not being able to see our rentals? We have one rental between Alice and Alice. This is why, because I've created a rental one myself. Let's do a better one then. Still have the ID, yeah. Bob at example.com. Okay. Rental start is not yet defined. Let's see, rent bike. Can I still do this? Yeah. No, this one didn't work. Okay. Rentals available, rent bike. Interesting. It doesn't want to, but doesn't throw any error. We have a problem there. Oh yes, of course, look. This is Alice's bike, so Alice has to be the owner of the bike. But let's see. Now we have the other one. We still have the bike ID and the paperclip. Let's see if we can do this. Create a bike. No, not a bike. A rental for that bike that we want. Owner is Alice. Yes. Okay. Now we have this. Can I rent it? I want to rent it. I also cannot rent it. Oh no. Also cannot rent it. Let's see if I can rent it. Still cannot rent it. Oh, the bike is already in use. Of course. I need another bike. See that smart backend logic that we've implemented in a few seconds before? It's useful now. We have this enforced business logic and we have this going. Good. So we see that all of this we could continue iterating. This is development work, but the speed at which we've set up the backend is quite fast. We've been able to connect our front end to it, make sure that new functionalities would be implemented. If you have a front end already, this would be so much easier for you to do, and then also to just add the specific function calls at the specific places and chain those actions, or await the result of that action, and that would just simplify your life so much. Hoping that you had fun, hoping that you learned something about how to bring a backend to your NPL, an NPL backend to your React frontend, and you'll be able to implement this. Let us know. Reach out to us on the Noumena community, or on wherever you can reach out to us for help. We're happy to help, happy to get you started and going forward with this. Okay, have a great time.